Hi, everybody. I'm Ann Douds, and I'm going to talk to you today about our Eisenhower Institute's Women and Leadership program. What I'd like to do today is give you a little bit of background on me and on the program and what I anticipate we'll be doing in the spring of 2021. So I teach in the public policy program here at Gettysburg College, and I joined the faculty 3 years ago. My first career was as a trial attorney. I practiced law in Georgia, South Carolina, and a little bit in DC. I started out as a prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Georgia, and then I did civil work. I worked for an insurance defense firm to get my experience in big law. And then I went into private practice with a series of law firms, 3 law firms total, doing general trial practice, because at that point I was living in South Carolina and you want to generalize. In the course of that fairly long career in the legal world, I ended up becoming managing partner of my law firm and made a lot of leadership and hiring and firing decisions in sort of the private sector in that respect. And I also sort of fortuitously became involved in a series of death penalty defense cases, which ended up defining several years of my professional life and gave me a great deal of insight into different approaches to leading because of having to deal with all the different levels of bureaucracy and judiciary in those cases. And then ultimately, my last 5 to 7 years in the legal profession was almost exclusively doing civil rights litigation, specifically Section 1983, which is a federal law that allows private citizens to sue government employees, state, local, or federal, for violations of their civil rights. For example, illegal searches and seizures, deaths in custody, those kinds of things. Around the early 2000s, I had been doing the law thing for a long time, and I kept seeing the same cases over and over again, not literally, not the same people, but the same constellation of problems that were contributing to people getting in trouble with the law, either civilly or criminally. And I decided I wanted to try to do something about it from a different angle. So I went back to school. I had gotten my JD, my bachelor's from Duke, my JD from Emory back in '94. And then in the early 2000s, I went to George Mason University and their Justice Law and Crime Policy program and got a doctorate in public policy, focusing on justice policy. And I wanted to do that because I had been doing a little bit of consulting in the policy arena, and I wanted to expand that work so I could try to solve or at least respond to some of the social issues that were causing the cases to come like a revolving door through my office. When I joined the faculty at Gettysburg, I was super excited because they were making a hire to have someone to come in and be the first full-time faculty member of the public policy program. And that's what I really want to do. I already lived in Gettysburg. I love the community. I like doing community-based research. I like teaching young people. I derive a lot of energy from working with students, and I hope I give them some energy as well. And at the time I joined the public policy program, the dean of public policy, Rob Boyer, who's also with EI, he asked me if I would be interested in running the Women in Leadership program at EI. And at first I kind of teased him and said, what is Women in Leadership doing at EI? It's not like the Eisenhower era is all that famous for either women in leadership formally or informally. But I started doing some digging, and there are lots of really cool things we can learn from studying approaches to leadership from that era and also from the modern era. So that's one thing that I want to do this spring semester that I'm adding to the curriculum that we hadn't done previously, is a focus of some historical narrative research, just fun. It won't be anything too heavy, but we'll be looking back at women who were change makers during the 1950s and what we can learn about change agency from them. So we get our group together and we'll have a get to know you session. So it'll be people, all genders are welcome. This is about studying women in leadership. It's not about having female students. So all genders welcome. We'll do a get to know you session. We will meet weekly on Wednesdays at 4, like I said, and we'll be doing a couple of things. One, we'll be meeting with women from, I think, 7 different domains. And that's one aspect that we'll do. Another thing that we'll be doing is we'll be talking a lot about this concept of intellectual empathy. And there's a great book by Margaret Linder, I think is her name. And each week, one of us will take one chapter, or a team of us, a team of 2 students will take one chapter. And they're not long, but they're really applied. It's not, it doesn't even feel like academic writing at all. It's very much about real world skills. So we'll be taking one of those and we'll be examining biases, obstacles to leadership that arise from lack of empathy. We all have room to grow in the empathy department. We can constantly, there's no end state of empathy, so we can keep improving on that. So that's sort of an external source of what we'll be studying in addition to the women we'll be meeting with. And then third, we will be doing a lot of internal work, meaning inside of ourselves, because there are these lots and lots of concepts around leadership, but probably the overarching theme that I appreciate the most is the idea of transformational leadership. So the notion that giving someone an incentive, a monetary incentive or a tangible incentive to do something for you is just a transaction. That's transactional leadership. You say, I'm your boss, do this, and I'll give you a paycheck. Great. That's not really leadership. That's just managing. And so what we want to explore is the idea of transformational leadership, which is inspiring people to coalesce around a common purpose, a common mission, and work collectively to achieve that mission. And sometimes that leadership looks more like collaboration. Sometimes that leadership looks like traditional figurehead leadership. And sometimes that leadership looks like grassroots leadership, which is letting the group decide how this effort needs to be accomplished. So to figure out our strengths and weaknesses in that regard, we'll be doing some assessments. We'll take them, we'll figure out what our own strengths and weaknesses are based on these assessment tools. We'll compare assessments to say, do we trust the validity of these measures? And then we'll share out what we feel comfortable sharing about what we've learned about our own strengths and weaknesses and maybe how we can build upon those. And finally, and most importantly, this group is a wonderful cohort. It's a group of people who you will get to stay in touch with, have as touchstones as you move through your academic career and beyond. I love the fact that we get people from all different disciplines into this program. Everybody from biology, arts. We had one woman from the conservatory, psychology, business, Spanish, you name it. We had the majors in there, and that's adds a nice extra dimension to the benefits of this program because leadership occurs in every discipline. And so unlike some other programs where you might be focused on one content area, we are focused on a content area that transcends all academic disciplines. So you'll make friends who you might not have even interacted with otherwise, but for this program. I hope you will consider joining it. I know it's going to be different than what we wanted it to be. You've probably heard that we normally take a trip to Washington, D.C. over spring break, and that is a very cool component of the program. But I'm going to do everything I can to make this as rich as possible virtually, but we will come up with programming that will be rewarding and virtual. I also will welcome feedback from participants and ideas they have for things we could do. If you have any questions about the program, or if you'd like to learn more from me, my address, it's very simple, is just adouds, ADOUDS, @gettysburg.edu. Feel free to shoot me an email and we can chat by phone or Zoom or however you want to do it. But I look forward to meeting all of you who end up applying, and have a great rest of your day.